Let's check out how to set up Track IR5 for Star Citizen. If you bought a device for upwards of 150 euros, or much more if you're in Australia, you might ask yourself two questions. First being, what am I doing with my life? And the second one, how to get most out of it in Star Citizen. Now, the first part of the video, I'm going to walk you through a basic profile setup and explain the controls. Then the second part, I'm going to load my own profile and explain how I set it up and why I set it up the way it is. And the third part, I'm going to show you how to set up the in-game settings so you can use it in Star Citizen. So let's get started. The first option you want to do is set a track clip or track clip pro. Depending which version you bought, you need to click those. Then you need to consider if you're using a joystick with TrackIR, because before you load this program, make sure you got the joystick plugged in, and then start this program, and then start the game. So the game both recognizes the joystick and TrackIR recognizes the joystick too for the hotkeys. Okay, then you got three tabs: profiles, titles, camera. Now, camera is some camera-specific configuration settings. Most of them you can leave at default. And I'm going to show you something. See that camera view over here? See those three little dots? Those represent the signal the camera is getting from the reflector. If it's more than three dots, or one of them is flashing or disappearing, then your camera will start glitching. That's because likely there's another light source that's strong enough to appear on the infrared over here. And in order to filter that out, you can use the light filter threshold and the brightness of the infrared light to manage it. Okay, then you got titles. The purpose of titles is to set a specific profile for a specific game. However, I'm using the same profile for all the games that support TrackIR, so I'm not making use of that screen. However, if you want to do it, you can select it over here. And okay, now I'm going to start a blank profile. Click over here. New prof. Okay, let's go through the settings. Here you can change your profile itself. Now the one button here is interesting, that's exclusive. If you set that on, then the TrackIR will always use this profile for all the games. And I keep that on while I'm playing, because as I said earlier, I use the same profile for everything. Okay, then you got here, create new profile, copy current profile, delete profile, save profile. You have to click that quite often because there's no undo option in the settings. Okay, then we got action hotkeys. You got center. That's a really important hotkey to remember. It should be somewhat in easy reach because we will occasionally press it while you're playing. What it does, it recenters where the 0 is for your TrackIR. So for example, if, let's say I shifted around my chair, this is my new 0 point. In F12, see, that's my new 0. Press it again, that's my new 0. Okay, then you got pause. That's to basically deactivate it. Press it. Now there's no movement anymore. And then you got precision. What it does, it basically it reduces the range of motion and increases the smoothness and precision. So it's like if you need a really precise head movement in a certain area. Now this seems like a good idea at the beginning, however, I advise against using it. Now, the reason for that is if I use TrackIR, I want it to help me by creating an extra movement axis with my head. I do not want it to be an extra device I have to worry about hotkeys and settings and ranges and all that. So my recommendation is to not use precision and just adapt with some experience of over a few days to just move your head with more precision with your own muscle memory. It will feel more naturally because you can just pop on TrackIR and start playing and you don't have to worry about the settings. Okay, the next one is profile. I have actually no idea what the thing does, and I never used it. Okay. Let's go back to center. Now, those three settings are important. Enable means if the hotkey is even active. If it's not checked on, you can press it, nothing happens. Now, toggle means you press a button once, it activates, you press it again, it stops. If toggle is off, then you need to hold the button, and when you let go, it untoggles itself again. So I think the default option here is to keep it on toggle for most things. And trap means that TrackIR has exclusive control over that key. So for example, if you're playing Star Citizen and you say you want to use the F12 key just for centering, and you don't want any function of star citizen to be activated along with it, then you press trap. Then it gets exclusive control over the key. Okay, then here are filter settings for the graph. So for example, if you let's activate TrackIR again. That. Now let's say you want to fine-tune the setting, but you only want to check your pitch. You don't want the yaw to be along with it, because you can't move your head that precise to completely eliminate yaw. So remove yaw. You can see that my left-right head movement isn't even registering. My tilt is still registering because the setting is still on. So this doesn't actually change your profile. It's just a filter mechanism to help you fine-tune it. And XYZ is not rotation, it's translation, which means movement. So you lean back, forward, left, right. That's your actual head movement. Okay. Now let's explain the graph. First, you can select an axis over here. Yaw, pitch, roll. Yaw is left, right. Pitch is up, down. Roll is banking. X, I'm not sure which one is the back. Got it. So if you lean back and forth, you got the Z-axis. If you shift left and right, it's X. Up and down is the Y-axis. Let's stay on yaw. Now you can load a template one-to-one. Dead zone, smooth, fast, slow. Now if you go for templates one-on-one, which is I think the default one, then you get a one-to-one translation. What you do with the head in real life gets one-to-one translated by TrackIR into the game. So in this case, see the X, Y axis. X is true angle in degrees, rotation speed degrees in the game. So in this case, 0 point. As I move my head 9 degrees over here, it will multiply that by 1 because it's over here 1, which means you get 9 degrees in game, 9 degrees outside of the game. Now if I click on that, and let's say I move that thing up over here, I'm going back to center. As I'm moving my head 9 degrees again, over here 9 degrees, you see, my in-game movement is about 45 degrees because it's multiplied. And this way you can set extrapolations with your curves to get the right amount of movement in a certain range. And it's necessary to have that set up in a correct way, because unlike VR, where you get a complete headset, if you want to look behind your monitor or behind you in-game, you can't look behind your monitor because then TrackIR doesn't get a signal. So at some point you have to use multiplicators to, to look around the corner in-game while not looking around the corner in real life. Now this might be a bit confusing at first, however, when you see my profile, it's all set up in a really nice way. And here you can set mirror. So if you only have to drag one button. Invert and limit, never use those. You can set precise positions of a point over here. And you can shift the entire curve up or down. So the whole curve is shifted in intensity. Now for the translation axis, which means movement axis, it's the same. However, it's usually one-to-one. Okay, I think those are the basic controls. Now I'm going to load my own profile and explain how it works. I'm turning off exclusive. I'm going to SC main character. Changes. Okay, now this profile I'm going to provide a link to in my Google Drive, so you can use it as is if you like, or modify on top of it if you want to. Keep it exclusive. Now I'm going through the settings of my own profile. Okay, my center key is on delete. That's your own preference. I like to have the delete key in game for centering. Pause I rarely use. 9. Precision I never use. So I got this disabled. Okay, now let's look at my yaw axis. That gets a bit complicated, but I'll explain how it works. Okay, first I'm going to recenter. Yeah. Okay. Now let's look at my curve. As you can see, it's flat up to 6 degrees, and it's multiplied by 4.5. Is it 4.5? Yeah, it should be. So that's a flat area here. The reason it's flat is because I want it to be linear in that range. So for example, okay, now my yaw is 6 degrees like this and 6 degrees like that. Or in-game, as you can see, if I go 6 degrees, I'm at 30 degrees on my monitor. Now, the reason I want this to be linear, I want my head movement, if I move it in that range, to be linear. I don't want it to accelerate because I'm like at 3 degrees and then at 6 degrees I'm getting more acceleration. It's like mouse acceleration for your head. And I want it to be flat for this area and for one particular reason. The way I'm sitting in front of my monitor, at a distance from it, when I rotate my head, it's about, how to explain that? It's about eye movement. So as I'm rotating my head 6 degrees and I'm keeping my eyes straight in my head, I'm looking somewhat on the left area of my monitor. However, in game, I'm 45 degrees out. And that's the area where I can comfortably move my head without having to turn my eyes in the opposite direction while my head is rotated in the other direction. Because at this point, you're straining your eye muscles, and then you might not feel well when you do it a lot. Okay? So this is the range to 6 degrees, real life, and 4.5 multiplicator. That's my range for looking left and right on the monitor without having to strain my eyes. Because a lot of people who set up those profiles tend to make the mistake where they want too much precision. However, then when they look to the edge of the monitor, they have to really strain their eyes to look back at the screen. And that gets really tiring over time. And then beyond 6 degrees, I have a linear increase over here. Now if I want to look 90 degrees, no. If I'm looking like this, I already have to strain my eyes to look back at the center of the screen. And in-game, the sweet spot, okay, now I'm looking at the edge of my monitor. It's about 40 degrees. And in-game, it's a good range to look left and right. Okay, then we got pitch. Is the exact same curve. Because up and down, left and right rotation should be the same. Then roll. I got actually linear because my roll, wait, is it linear? Is it multiplied? Let me check. Yeah, it's linear, which means I want the roll, the tilt of my head to be 1-to-1 what is in real life. Just feels more natural to me. Then as far we go as translation. Now that's a personal preference the way you like it. I got it real life, which means I'm leaning in. It's the same as in real life. Now if you don't like to move your head a lot and you want to lean in faster, you can basically shift that curve up or down. Now I'm leaning it a bit, now it's faster. I can increase it even more. You can really lean into the instruments if you like. Or if you see the thing in the distance, you don't have to hold F and zoom. Sometimes you just want to lean in. It feels more natural. Okay. Now this explains my settings. Now there's one more thing I want to tell you is important thing about centering your screen. See, when you want to center your screen, just looking straight ahead and pressing center might seem the intuitive option. However, I advise against it. When I'm centering, I'm doing the following thing. Now pay attention what my head over here is doing. Okay. I'm going to slouch down a tiny bit. Like you're in a medium position your chair, neither leaned in or nor backwards. Now slouch down a bit. You see I'm slouching down. And I'm rotating my head up to look at my reflector. So my head is facing at the reflector, about 10-15 degrees. And now I'm pressing calibrate. I'm sitting upright again. Now what this does, it gives me a more natural and easier range to look down quickly. And it's a bit harder to look up for a long time. Now there's two reasons for that. First off is, if you're in a cockpit with TrackIR, you spend more time glancing down the instruments. You won't spend that much time looking up. You do it too in dogfights, but you don't do it that often. And having to strain your head up all the time, it goes into your head muscles and the neck muscles and the back of your head muscles after some time. So I'd rather set up the offset slightly forward, so it's a bit more easier to look down this direction because it's inverted the way you center it. There are two more settings I would like to explain. You got motion control over here. There's a speed setting and a smooth setting. Speed is a global multiplier for everything. So right now it's at 1. You can go 0.1, all the way up to 5. I'd like to keep that at 1. Then you got smooth. Now that's an interesting setting. Basically it's a trade-off. I'm going to show it for a moment. Okay. Now if you set it to complete 0, now watch what happens to my head movement. See that shaking. Now it picks up every small twitch that your head is making while you're moving. Nice increase now, but it's extremely precise. Now it depends if that is something you would like in a game or if the jittering is bothering you. So you can increase it, and the more you increase it, the more it stabilizes. However, you get some, it smooths out, it gives you some lag on the movement. So my favorite setting is 5. Then you get a high precision and it smooths out the stronger jitters. Now if you go all the way up to 50, now it's extremely smooth. Feels nice too, however, you will notice while you're flying, it tends to get in the way to get so much lag while you're doing it. So you gotta find the setting that you like the most for yourself. For me, it's the number 5. Let's check out the in-game settings for TrackIR. Okay, we go to options. We go to key bindings, advanced controls customization. Over here. And no, I've set this one over here. Enable head tracking toggle to numpad divide. That's a key I like to reach easily, like this. Okay. Then we go to comms, VoIP and head tracking, and we go to over here. Head tracking general source, TrackIR. Okay, we got TrackIR. Now we keep this one on. Yes, so it's a toggle. Use position offsets in cockpits. No idea what it does, I keep it on. Auto recalibrate, yes. However, I sometimes calibrate myself too. I think every time it activates in certain situations in the game, it resets itself. Disable while seated? No, because you want to use it in the cockpit. Now in the live version, usually you can override that anyway with toggle. However, in this PTU version, it appears to be stuck on off if you set it to off. So it's forced off. However, it's yes, you can toggle it anytime you want. So keep it no. Disable during FPS, again, no. I'll explain in a moment what it means. Disable during ADS, no. So I keep them all no, so I can manually toggle them if in some situations I still want to use them. Disable during MobiGlass, no. That's important because MobiGlass is really fun with TrackIR. Okay, now we go back. Okay, now I'm standing around, I got TrackIR on. I'm going to calibrate again, manually. Now if you walk around with TrackIR, it can get quite disorienting because you have no indicator where front is. If you look down at your feet, you can see where front is. You look around, look at things. It's actually quite nice to use. However, as you start turning with your character slightly and rotating your head, then it gets disorienting if you lose track of where you're moving or what the direction is. And I'm going to toggle it off. Now, if you sit into a seat during the seating animation, normally you're locked into the forward position with your view. However, if you got TrackIR enabled while walking, then you can rotate your head during seating animations. And I think it makes it a lot more fun to sit down in places because you can, well, you have still view control over it. So it feels less restrictive. So, sitting in. Now as I'm moving, I can look around as I want. Now here comes the fun part. Okay, so now in the cockpit, left, right, up, down, even lean forward. There are 3D effects over here. You can shift to the side, you can shift over here. And it will be disorienting at first because you need to get used to coordinating your head movement to what you see in game. Also, if you get motion sick, happens to some people while flying, try to focus on something on a distance that doesn't move. For example, you can look around like this, and if you get it correctly set up, like I did on my profile, you can look back and lean a bit. And I can see what's behind outside, and you can even see what's behind you in the ship. Okay, now I'm going to try to use a gun with ADS. Yeah, look left, look right. See, it feels a lot less jarring when you're getting out of the chair and you still retain your head movement. Okay, now we can look around like this. It's actually really cool in this game. If you look at your gun like this, it leans over like that. I'm aiming ADS. You can aim, shoot at stuff. You can look around while you're shooting. And it doesn't have much use in combat because it takes some hand-eye coordination to still aim at stuff while you're looking around like this. I think this concludes the tutorial, and as always, thanks for watching.